Hello and welcome to a very special How I Paint Things. Now today I'm going to go over how you can use contrast and regular paints to really get something quite cool. Using the contrast as the basis for the color scheme, you're then able to build on top of that and come up with something which I think looks pretty cool. Now I've chosen to go with the Cult of the Four-Armed Emperor here because, as you guys probably know by now, I really like the Genestealer Cultists. And their miniatures are some of the coolest to come out, in recent years. Plus, the style that they actually suit a contrast method very well. So from there, we're then going to add to them, and I hope you'll pick up one or two things you might find useful in your own painting, whether you're painting cultists or not. So without any further mucking around, all of the paints will be listed in the description below. Let's get started. Now to begin with, I've given this guy a couple of light passes of Gracia, which is one of the contrast primers. To be perfectly honest, you could probably use even Mechanica Standard Grey here for what we're about to do. It might give you a slightly more pronounced effect, one that you could try yourself. What we're going to do now is actually introduce something for the contrast to sort of key into, because Gracia and Wraithbone are both very good by themselves, but we can actually help the contrast effect a little more. So I've got here a dry paint. I've got Praxetic White. Any old white really will do the job though. So what I'm going to do, crack this open. And then to start with, one of the easiest places to dry brush on these guys, check along the edge of his base what you're going to leave behind. And then along the backpack thing he's got going here, you'll start to see that white pick up very quickly. What we're going to do is go around the whole model, and you want to be surprisingly generous, I guess is the way to put this. You almost want them to be white with grey recesses, rather than grey with white highlights. Let's just go around now, and we'll come back and have a look what I've got when I'm finished. Now after a couple of passes, this is what we've got. And as you see, white with grey recesses is really more what we're looking for. You might ask, why not just prime him white? And honestly, this grey that we've got in the recesses, it's going to work really well as sort of a mid color, because what we're going to do now is actually shade the whole model. Now I've got here Nuln Oil. You could go ahead and use something like Agrax Earthshade if you wanted a slightly warmer finish to this, but I think this is going to work quite well. And in particular, on these rubberized parts of his armor in the front here, if you find it difficult to reach, like say he's got a gun across his chest, you can't get in there to really paint it, just a bit of black shade will do most of that for you. You don't have to worry too much. What we'll do now is give him a quick coating all over the whole model. Make sure that you are getting into all of the recesses here, and then give them probably about 20-30 minutes to dry. Now that our spooky ghost cultist has dried, we can go ahead and start applying some colors. Now, how I tend to suggest applying contrast is working almost like the model's getting dressed. So we want to start with the lowest levels. In this case, it'll be his boiler suit, and then we'll start doing the colors that will be layered on over top of that. I tend to find it means that it's a little easier to sort of plan out what you're doing. Now I'm going to use here Achelian Green. This is, the contrast blues are a funny one. Achelian Green is just a little too green, but something like Ultramarine Blue would be, well, a little too blue. But I think this is the closer one, and I quite like how it looks anyway. So what we're going to do is medium layer brush, and just go around applying this to all of the areas of his boiler suit. When you get close to areas that are going to be black or something later, just slow down a little. Take your time. But once you've started painting one area, like I've started on his leg, keep working on that leg until the whole thing is done. Because if you leave an area of contrast to go do something else, you're going to get strange tide marks when it dries. So let's get all of this Achelian Green on. See what it looks like when that's done. Now once that's dried, I think you'll see what I mean. It's not perfect as far as a color match, but it is quite close, and I really like how that comes out. So what we'll do next is I've got Blood Angel's Red. We're going to go ahead and apply this to the tabard. If you had a model he had like an armband or something, you could apply this now too. This does not take terribly long. If you've got one that has, for example on this dude here, he's got a little chain thing, little icon on the front here. Don't worry too much if you get a little bit of red on this. Now we're going to go ahead and apply some Black Templar. Now if you do have any areas where you go a little bit too keen with some of the other colors, you'll notice on his, these rubberized sections here, there's a little slightly brighter section up the top. You can patch up any of those areas with Administratum Grey before applying your black. Let's go around now and fill all these areas in. Now as the Black Templar dries, you'll see we're finally getting somewhere. What we're going to do now is we're going to swap on over to, let's say, Classic. I know it's a paint is paint, but when we talk about the Classic method with Citadel paints, you get what I mean. I've got Mournfang Brown, and I'm going to go around and just do all of the leather areas. This will probably not be particularly difficult. I might want a little bit more water in my paint there, though. So let's just go around, pick up all the leather areas, and anywhere that we're going to do a little bit of metal later. So, for example, on these little detonation charges he's got here, don't worry too much if you splash the metal bits up the top. Just make sure you're getting a nice solid colour on all of your leather. Then we'll move on to Iron Hand Steel, and we'll do all of the little metallic areas on them too. You might wonder why this is quite a bright base coat that we're putting on for the metal. You'll see why in a moment. It's going to be fun. Just remember there's a few little metallic dealies all over him, so turn him around, have a look at some of the stuff on his back too that you might want to touch up a little. Really, this is a matter of personal choice at this stage. Now that the metal's done, we're actually going to go back to a contrast paint, and I'm going to use Basilicanum Grey. We're going on at this point because we're actually going to use it very similarly to a shade, and you'll see, oh, I love how this looks over Iron Hand Steel. So just over most of the metal, one or two areas like the cult icon he's got going, we'll do that a different color in a couple of minutes. But over all of the metal, and then at the same time, if you want to darken down the the armor stuff that he's wearing, you can also Basilicanum Grey this now. So around you go. However much of this you like. You might want to try it just on the metal first, let that dry, and then go around all of the armor. But it's up to you. I think if you are sort of trying to mimic what's on the box, definitely put it on the armor. Now that stuff puts the dark and grimdark, right? Especially on the back, you'll see how much cooler that looks. It's not quite finished drying, but that's okay. We're going to move on to another color. I would suggest if you're bat painting these guys, do 5 or 10 at a time, so you don't have to wait for paint to dry. But I've got here Skeleton Horde, and we're just going to go over this bone blade that he's carrying. Now at last, Agrax Earthshade makes its appearance. Now we're going to go over all of his skin, and we're going to do the leather details as well. So there's Mournfang brown bits we did earlier. You don't have to be particularly careful with this. It's not going to show up very well on any of the other colors that we've already painted. But if you're feeling adventurous, you might want to swap on down to a small layer brush. I'm just going to demonstrate with the one I've got here, and just paint in some of these armor lines. So right in close against the edge of the panels, where you get dirt collecting and what have you. It's really up to you. This is a bit more time consuming, but it does look very cool when it's done. So for example, along here, just a little bit of Agrax Earthshade in that recess there. When it's dried, you get a little bit of kind of grimy gunginess to it, which will look quite neat. Now this one's an optional step. I mean, most of how we paint is optional, but what I'm going to do is get just a little bit of white, and I'm going to blip right in the center of this lens here. Be careful with this. Don't go right the way to the edges. You want to leave a little bit of the shaded area around there. At the same time, if you're feeling fancy, you can do this little... Oh, this is going to be way easier without the camera, but you can paint that white too. And then with a little dollop of Iandan yellow, you can get quite a nice, very simple glowing effect up in the, what do you call it, lamp thing he's got here. Just dollop it towards one side of the lamp so it collects a little. And then, very carefully, nice bright yellow cable as well. Now with some Cadian flesh tone, we're going to go over most of his face. Now I tend to find it's easiest with these guys to sort of start just sort of above the brow line and draw away from the center of the face. You'll probably find, particularly on these big bald heads, you're going to have to come back and do a second coat. But don't worry too much. Just what we're looking for is to go ahead and fill in most of his skin again. Just getting a little bit of texture near to some of these areas. I have done a couple of videos on painting faces. You might find those interesting too. Now I will be honest, this is not the easy way. If there's any advice I can give when it comes to faces, it's practice. You get so many extra heads in most kits. You know, there's nothing wrong in just spraying them up on the sprue and having a practice. Practicing faces is going to be one of the best ways to improve your painting because there's so many different ways you can go about it, and they are a focal point of every miniature. If you do paint the face nicely, you'll tend to find that any other little, mistakes or oversights or what have you on the rest of the model, they will just disappear. So what I've got now, after doing the Cadian flesh tone, is I've got some Druchii Violet. That's a shade. I'm going to mix that down about half and half with water. You could use the mixing medium. Don't really need to though. What I'm going to do is get some of this on my brush. Not too much though. And then we're going to go ahead and paint this all over his head. So front to back, make sure we're filling in all the areas of skin. And you'll see very quickly it gives us this slightly muted purple tint. It does collect more towards the recesses. I love them. Genestealer Cultist are probably one of my favorite bits of just extremely grim 40k-ness. Now with that done, we've got this sickly looking purple cast to his face. What we'll do is get our Kislev flesh and just very lightly start highlighting some areas of his face to make that stand out a bit more. And with just a few lines of Kislev flesh, that's what we've got. I really enjoy painting faces, and even a relatively quick method of simply, 3 colors and a couple of shades will give you a great result. Do practice it, guys. I really promise you'll get some great stuff out of it. I did quickly touch in the shotgun shells with some Blood Angels red again. I forgot to do those earlier. What I've got now, though, this is Nazdrag yellow. You could go ahead and use Iandan yellow still if you wanted. But just over some of the silver areas from earlier, I'm going to use this to give us a cool brassy effect. Same to the little handle on his yucky bone blade here. Now we have long since passed the point at which I would have quite happily put this guy on the table, but to be honest, I'm enjoying painting him, and you could put a little bit of extra effort into your miniatures like this to do your characters. The basics being contrast, it doesn't stop you improving that look. So what I've got now is some Ushabti bone, and I'm blocking my light there, but I'm just going to go ahead and lightly flick along the edges of that bone blade. And let's very carefully get a bit of a line just there too. Now with some Gorthor brown, we can do a few highlights on the leather areas. I'd suggest you want to be fairly sparing with these. Then you can use a little bit of Dawnstone. Just a wee bit of water in there, just to pick out the edges of the armor, and tidy those up a little bit. You'll notice it's not a hugely different shade. If you want that, you could go up to Administratum Grey. Get a much brighter highlight. Now from here you can actually get a little bit of Fenrisian Grey and very, very small highlights on the Achillean Green. We'll change up that colour quite a bit. take your time with this one, and like I said, sparing, definitely better here. And I think you'll see, particularly from the side here, how that does change up that Achelian green, and it starts to look much closer to the stuff that's on the box. What we've got now, I've got a Wild Rider Red, and we'll just paint in a few sharp highlights along these red areas. And with just a little bit of thinned down black, we're going to do a few black areas. Let's start off with just flicky, flicky, flicky. Now the cable under his nose, I'm going to do off screen. Now from here, if you wanted to highlight the black rubberized stuff, I'd probably suggest maybe Skaven Blight Dinge or Storm Vermin Fur, maybe the lighter of the two, but I really don't think you need to sell this look. What I'm going to do now though, because contrast can be a little less hard wearing than ordinary paint, I'm going to give them a quick varnish. Now that's after a quick spray of the Army Painter Anti-Shine Varnish. Munitorum spray would work fairly well as well. You could even use the brush-on Storm Shield. I tend to like a slightly more matte finish though, so that's why I've gone for the Army Painter one in this case. What we'll do now is just go ahead and pop a base on them though. And at last, with its base applied, our Genestealer Cultist is complete. Now, I got to admit, like I said, this is way more time than I would ordinarily spend on foot troops. But I think it goes to show that, with just a little bit of extra work, you really can get a much better result out of these contrast paints. You could throw down contrast, put them on the table, and then when you've got some more time later, come back, add those highlights, build from there. And I don't think, even if you were to go ahead and do the same on a character, for example, like a Magos or the like, you'd still end up with something really cool that you could be pleased to put on the table. So, from such humble beginnings, one thick coat, as they say. So, as ever, shout out to Exit 23 for the use of the sound and lighting equipment. Thank you very much again, guys. And if you've got any questions, feel free to drop them in the old comment box below. My Twitter and Facebook are both linked there too. So, thank you very much for your time, and you all enjoy the rest of your day.